Okay, guys, this video is mainly going to be dealing with mule ear, underhammer locks, some of the things I've had trouble with, some of the things I've seen other people have trouble with, and maybe this will kind of get you out of a bind. But I do see a lot of guys having trouble with these guns, especially when they first get them and they're not really sure what they're up against. So I'm going to try to cut through some of this so you'll have a little better shot at it. One of the biggest problems with both types, and for our purposes, they're the same thing. One of them's just under, one of them's on the side, is bad nipple fitting. You either get a nipple that's projecting out into the bore too far, or you get a nipple that's not in there far enough, and it's got a void between the bore and the face of the nipple. Both problems, in both of these situations ends up with problems because if you're projecting too far into the bore, your cleaning jag won't go all the way to the bottom. And then you get a buildup on the face of the breech plug, and next thing you know, your gun won't go off. The other problem you run into, if you got it too short of a nipple, every time you clean, that jag and that patch is running crap down in there, and it starts to fill up that gap between the end of the nipple and the bore. Then you end up with the same situation. So, do a quick little thing here and show you how to kind of check and see where you're at. If you notice on here, I've got a mark on this. This is where the breech plug is making contact with the cleaning jag. You can see the black mark. It's flush with the muzzle. Now, I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to run a nipple in that I know to be wrong. And then we'll try this again. It's very important that you get a good fit here because these are really good ignition systems, but if they're just having a little thing off on them, they'll just give you terrible fits. Now, I've run a nipple and I know to be wrong. Okay, now I'm going to go. Now, you see, you got about a 1/4 inch between the cleaning jag and the breech plug. And of course, that's a 1/4 inch nipple, so that makes sense. It's projecting into the bore and it's not letting your cleaning jag go all the way down. That's going to give you problems. So that's the one thing. If you're projecting too far into the bore, you're going to have to hand fit that thing. And I'll go back and I'll pause this and then we'll get back to it. Now, I hope you can see that. The one on the right is the nipple that actually goes in this gun, and the one on the left is the one that was projecting too far. Now, it doesn't look like a lot, but that's actually a lot if your cleaning jag won't go all the way to the bottom. So, you're going to have to hand fit these nipples. There's really not 100% solution to this because you're putting that nipple into a bore that has grooves and lands. The center of that nipple might be in the center of a groove. It might be in the center of a land. You really don't have anything you can do about that. Just try to get as close as you can. Another thing you can do, and I think I can show you this. Now, with the nipple in it that's too long, I ran my jag up and down a few times. You see what happens. That nipple starts cutting your patch. You pull your patch out of your gun, you see that, you know exactly what's wrong, and you know what you're going to have to fix. So there's that issue. Now we go back to the nipple that's not all the way in. In other words, there's a gap in there between the end of the nipple and the bore. What happens there, and this is what happened to me, and I finally figured that one out. You clean the gun, you shoot it, you go back, you run 2 wet patches, 2 dry patches, or whatever. And you get a few shots into the match, and then suddenly you put a cap on it, you settle into the shot, you're ready to break through, you break it, and snap. All you get's a cap going off, gun doesn't go off. And you've already ran a pick in there, in that nipple, but it still won't go off. You go back, you run a pick in there, you put another cap on it, and this time it goes off perfectly. Well, what's happened as you're cleaning it, you're shoving debris and fouling down in there, and it slowly builds up in that gap between the nipple and the bore. Well, the first cap, the gun don't go off because there's a blockage there, but that cap breaks that up just enough that when you put the second cap on it, it goes off. But guys, that's a pain in the ass. You don't want to sit there and have that happen. That breaks your concentration. It wrecks everything. And so I don't know exactly, I'm working on a couple ideas for that, but you will see a lot of guys that will go up, clean their gun, carry it back up to the line, snap a cap on it before they load it. And what they're doing is making sure that that's clean back there. Personally, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And I'm not talking about the price of caps. That doesn't even enter into it. I just lugging that 32-pound gun back and forth up to that firing line gets a little old. And if there's a way that you can get around having to do that, it's going to save you a lot of carrying for the day, because I don't know, a lot of people think chunk gun shooting just so easy. It's a lazy man's sport. You do a 10-shot match with some warm-up shots preceding that, and then you walk 120 yards up and down each relay, you're tired at the end of the day. I don't care who you are, you're tuckered out. So if you didn't have to go up to that line and snap that cap before you load, that'd be great. I think if you get a proper fit on your nipple and your cleaning jag, I like to make my jags just so with a heavy patch, they will go down the bore because that heavy patch cleans up those grooves and everything. I think if you get a good fit on that, you're kind of running that patch past the face of the nipple and kind of keeping it cleaner. At that point, a simple pick through the nipple itself might be enough, but then again, is it? You never know. It would be great if we had a way back at the loading bench that we could blast a shot of pressurized air into that nipple, and then you wouldn't have to bust a cap on it. You know it's clean. I'm not sure. I'm working on a little deal now about a very small air tank. I don't know if I've got all the bugs worked out of it yet. You can't use canned air. Don't get that in your head, because canned air, the propellants and the chemicals, it's not air, guys, it's chemicals. And it will introduce moisture to your bore. If you've ever cleaned your computer screen with a canned air, you see the frost that immediately jumps up on your screen. Well, that's the moisture in the air freezing, and you're just going to introduce water into your bore. And just like if you have to take your rifle friendship up to the range officer, have it blowed out. I always tell the people I do that for, take it straight back to the loading bench and wipe it out, because it's full of water at that point. So canned air is not going to do it. It's going to have to be dry air. Again, like I say, I'm working on something that might work. If I ever get that to work, I'll post a little video on it. It may not work at all. I might be barking up a tree with no coon in it. But we'll just see how it goes. Now, I'm going to pause this and go over a couple other issues. Okay, and we'll get into one last thing on this video. I've mentioned this in videos in the past, but this is important here. We put it in here in case you've missed it before. I carry 2 loading rods. Most guys I know do. One of them is just flat like that. That's for cleaning. And the other one is cupped, of course. And that's for your ball. If you try to use a flat-faced one to load your ball, you're going to beat your ball to death. If you try to use the one that's cupped, all you're doing as you run that down, that cup is gathering up fouling. And even though there's a patch there, it'll gather that up, and more than likely a good hunk of it's going to lay in the bottom of the barrel when you pull the ramrod back. So you're better off to have a flat face that'll go right up against the breech plug, give it a few twists, and you swipe that breech plug. And at the same time, if your nipple is properly placed, and I'll do a little bit on that here in a second. If your nipple is properly placed, that should sweep the face of your nipple with that cleaning patch, which might help you with your ignition issues. So if you can do it, it would be a cumbersome affair, but if you had to have just one ramrod and 2 jags, you can make it work. Honestly, I've been buying my rods as of late from Jason Snyder at Rice Barrels. He makes really great rods, and he brings a bunch of them to Friendship. And I don't know, I think they were $20 when he started. I think they're $25 now. But it's really nice to have that extra rod. So try and use that. And if you get your nipple all properly placed, I think that'll help keep it clean. All right, the next section, I'm going to show you a little diagram I made. Hang on. Okay, this maybe give you an idea of what we're talking about with the nipple placement here. We're not talking about protruding the bore. Now we're talking about where the nipple's at. Here's your breech plug. There's your bore, your barrel. There's your nipple. Now we're using 1/4-28 nipples. That means, we'll just say 1/4 inch in diameter, not quite, but we'll say it is. You want that the center line of that nipple, the hole in other words, you want that 1/8 of an inch from the face of the breech plug. That means you have put that nipple in there and you haven't touched, or very, very, very minimum, touched that breech plug. I've seen guys get a little off and they'll cut into that breech plug a little bit. Man, you're asking for trouble, because that's going to get filled with fouling, and next thing you know, you're going to have ignition problems. So if you use a 1/4 inch nipple, keep the full 1/4 inch in front of the breech plug, just like in that diagram, and that will serve you quite well. Some of the Charlie Bowers guns and stuff, I remember seeing that had a angled nipple going into the bore. I'm not quite sure how why Charlie did that. Somebody'd have to ask him, I guess. I've never had one like that. The one I did have was straight up into the barrel. But I think if you were building a mule ear, or say you're building a underhammer with maybe one of the old Pete Allen underhammers or something like that, or even a modified Hopkin and Allen underhammer, put that nipple right there, because you can see if you got that nipple a little forward of the breech plug, you've just now created a gap back there. It's going to fill up with trash, and that trash will eventually get in front of your hole on your nipple, and you're going to be cussing and fussing and fuming, and next thing you know, you're such a tiz you can't even shoot anymore. So that's a great place to put the nipple, and you'll be fine. Okay, guys, that'll be wrapping this one up. We may get in another video next week or sometime, but thanks for stopping by.